Stop right now. Don't scroll. Before you blink, before you move, before you breathe too fast, answer this. Why did your heartbeat suddenly change the moment this video appeared? Why did you feel as if someone whispered your name from the other side? Why did the room grow quiet, as though heaven itself leaned in? Because you were meant to be here. Because this message isn't random. Because your mother's spirit has been pleading for days to reach you through this moment. My beloved child, before I reveal what she showed me, subscribe right now and listen till the end. Don't skip, because this is being spoken by the voice of God through the light of truth itself. Every sentence you hear today carries a vibration that will protect you from what's forming behind your back. In the symbolic realm, heaven opened a curtain tonight. Behind it, I was shown your home wrapped in soft blue light, the color of divine protection. But outside that glow stood a shadow, a person whose smile hides a storm. They appear gentle, kind, helpful even, but their energy carries envy wrapped in politeness. Your mother's spirit pointed to that shadow and whispered, "My child still trusts this person. They do not see what I see." She then unfolded a vision. You, sitting at your table, speaking with honesty, unaware that the very one you confide in is collecting your words like keys. Keys that open doors you built with struggle and patience. Doors they want to walk through without paying the price you paid. She showed me their thoughts, how they twist compliments into calculations, how they smile at your victories while quietly comparing their worth to yours. Now the heavenly scene changed again. Your mother led me to a memory buried inside you, a time when you felt guilty for pulling away from someone draining you. You told yourself you were being cold. You apologized for protecting your peace. But she spoke firmly. My child confuses boundaries with betrayal. And heaven thundered with truth. Boundaries are not cruelty, they are prophecy. Each time you say no from a pure heart, you shift destiny itself. Every boundary you build with love becomes an altar where your future stands tall. So when your spirit grows uneasy around someone, don't question it. It is not fear. It is recognition. Heaven placed that instinct in you so you could walk through this week safely. Because the person your mother showed me, the one smiling too much, asking too many questions, pretending concern, has already spoken your name in spaces you've never entered. And she says this, word for word. Do not confront them yet. Just observe. Their own actions will reveal what their intentions hide. My beloved child, do you know what else she said? That you've spent years apologizing for being different. But heaven never created you to blend in, it created you to discern. And discernment often looks like distance. You are not cold, you are chosen. You are not paranoid, you are protected. And this week, as December's light shifts, your energy will begin rejecting what cannot move with you. Conversations will feel heavier. Some invitations will suddenly fall through. Some texts will stop arriving. Do not chase them. It is heaven's way of cleansing your circle without confrontation. Then, in the symbolic vision, Archangel Michael appeared beside your mother. His sword was not drawn in war, it was drawn in truth. He said, "Tell my child this. When they speak from intuition, I amplify their words. When they trust their peace, I guard their path. And he placed something luminous in your mother's hand, a feather burning with gold light. She pressed it over your heart and whispered, "This will shield you from emotional deception." In human terms, that means, no matter what anyone tries this week, guilt, manipulation, flattery, your spirit will feel the truth before the words finish leaving their mouths. So if you suddenly feel your stomach tighten or your breath change, step back. That's heaven tugging your sleeve, saying, "Not this one. Not today." And now listen carefully, because your mother showed one final scene. She stood beside your bed as you slept, watching over you. The room shimmered with pale silver light. She looked upward and said, "Let my child rest tonight without confusion." And heaven answered her prayer by writing a promise in light above you. Peace will follow discernment. Protection will follow stillness. Prosperity will follow honesty. So when the next sunrise comes and you remember these words, don't rush to act, just breathe, observe, and let truth reveal itself. By the end of the week, you'll understand why this message had to find you today. If this message reached your heart, if you felt your mother's love through it, then like this video, subscribe, and write in the comments, "I trust heaven's timing." And if your heart feels guided, share it, so another soul who's being watched over silently can remember that they're not crazy, not weak, not paranoid, just protected. My beloved child, as the symbolic vision deepens and the pale blue glow around your home intensifies, the heavens part into a slow-moving spiral of gold-silver mist, revealing not danger but clarity, not fear but awakening, and Archangel Michael steps forward with your mother's spirit beside him, guiding you into a realm where truth is revealed one layer at a time, and the moment you enter, the atmosphere changes. The air becomes denser, charged with the weight of something long hidden, and your mother, with her soft, trembling voice, begins showing you the first of the 3 symbolic days. Day 1 opens with the image of you waking up feeling a strange heaviness in your chest, not sadness, not anxiety, but a subtle awareness that someone's energy shifted behind your back, and heaven shows how your intuition will pick up tiny signals, unusual pauses in conversations, a sudden coldness in someone's tone, a message that feels forced, a compliment that lands wrong, and God whispers, "This is the day your spirit senses what your eyes cannot yet see," and you watch yourself moving through the symbolic scenes of your day, noticing how a certain person's smile doesn't reach their eyes anymore, how their questions sound more curious than caring, how their interest feels more like investigation than affection, and your mother gently places her hand on your shoulder, saying, "My child, this is not a new behavior. This is a pattern reaching its final breath," and suddenly day 2 arrives like a ripple in time, and the symbolic realm shifts into a deep golden light that reveals intentions rather than actions, showing how this person speaks about you when you're not present, not poisonously, not violently, but with a subtle tone of ownership, comparison, and quiet jealousy, and heaven reveals the truth. They don't want to destroy your life. They want to hold influence over it. They want to shape how you see yourself. They want your growth to stay tied to their approval, and your mother looks at you with a mixture of sorrow and relief, whispering, "You were raised to assume good, not to detect subtle harm," and Archangel Michael lifts his sword, not for battle, but for illumination, and when he touches the air with its tip, the entire symbolic room fills with transparent visions of conversations happening behind your back, comments said casually, tone infused with envy, remarks disguised as jokes, concerns framed as care, and God's voice becomes firmer, saying, "The second day exposes energy that words tried to hide," and you watch these scenes unfold, feeling no fear, only understanding, only recognition of your own sensitivity that you once mistook for overthinking, and suddenly day 3 arrives, the most important of all, and the realm turns white-hot with clarity as though the sun itself has lowered to eye level. And heaven shows you the moment when this person's behavior reveals itself completely, not through betrayal, not through threat, but through a tiny crack in their mask, a slip of tone, a misplaced comment, a reaction too quick to hide, an expression that flashes jealousy before settling into a forced smile, and your mother steps forward, placing both hands over your heart, whispering, "This is the moment you stop doubting yourself," and Michael's wings expand behind you, filling the entire symbolic space with shimmering silver fire, and God speaks through the light itself, saying, "You were never blind, my child, you were hopeful." And in an instant, the entire 3-day vision collapses inward, forming a sphere of pure truth that drops gently into your chest, sealing itself into your intuition forever, and the symbolic heavens reveal the final insight your mother wanted you to receive. You were never meant to confront this person or expose them. You were meant to outgrow them, to distance gently, to protect your inner world, to stop offering access to someone who only valued you in ways that served their own emotional comfort. And as the realm begins to dim into soft silver dusk, your mother kisses your forehead in the vision, saying, "You will feel the shift before you see it, and that is how heaven protects my child." And God's voice, warm as morning sunlight, whispers the last truth of this realm. Discernment is not judgment, it is alignment, and with that, the realm bursts into a slow-floating cloud of gold dust that wraps around your spirit like a cloak, anchoring every revelation into your awareness. And you walk out of the symbolic heavens not afraid, not shaken, but steady, finally, fully steady, because the truth your mother needed you to see has already begun reshaping the atmosphere of your life from the inside out. My beloved child, as the symbolic heavens complete the 3-day unveiling and the final dust of gold settles gently across the December realm like a soft snowfall of truth, the universe dims into a glowing twilight where only one thing remains illuminated: a long, spiraling walkway stretching into a chamber sealed by shimmering silver curtains. And your mother's spirit steps forward with a steady calm in her eyes as Archangel Michael opens the curtains with the tip of his blade, revealing a realm so intimate, so emotionally raw, that even heaven watches in silence. This is the unmasking, the place where the truth about the person you are wondering about rises from the shadows in forms you can finally understand without fear, and as you enter, the entire chamber shifts into a living memory field, a vast landscape woven from threads of moments you shared with this person. Conversations that felt slightly heavy without reason, smiles that didn't match the energy behind their eyes, tone shifts that your intuition caught but your mind ignored, hesitations you sensed, the strange feeling in your stomach after speaking with them, the quiet draining sensation you carried after each interaction, and the chamber brings these scenes to life like swirling holograms made of silver smoke, looping around you without accusation, without judgment, simply revealing what was always there but never seen. And your mother guides you to the first hologram, a scene where you opened up to them with honesty, trusting they held your words with care. But the hologram then shifts, showing what they did after, how they repeated your story in a softened version to someone else, not to betray you, but to build emotional influence by appearing in the know, and your mother whispers, "This was not evil, my child, it was insecurity," and the hologram dissolves before reforming into a second scene, a moment where they complimented you. Yet inside, their energy tightened because your growth made their self-worth feel smaller, and heaven shows how your victories triggered the part of them that felt unseen in their own life, and God whispers, "They admired you and envied you in equal measure," and the chamber expands further, showing the third scene. They weren't planning harm, they weren't wishing downfall, but they carried a subtle resentment that you trusted yourself more than they trusted themselves. A jealousy not of your success but of your emotional endurance, and this jealousy shaped how they spoke about you, how they reacted to your boundaries, how they pulled closer when you were vulnerable and drifted when you were strong, and your mother steps closer, placing her hand over your heart as she gently reveals the core truth. They wanted access to your strength without doing the work to become strong themselves, and the chamber swells with a soft, glowing wave of clarity as the holograms merge into a single image. The person standing in front of you with two overlapping shadows, one of who they pretend to be, warm, supportive, loyal, and one of who they truly feel inside, unsure, threatened, craving validation, needing reassurance, longing to feel significant through your struggles, and Archangel Michael touches the overlapping shadows, separating them so you can finally see the reality hidden beneath the mask. Not a villain, not an enemy, but a person whose intentions are shaped by their wounds, not their wisdom, someone who unconsciously projects their fears onto you, someone who quietly benefits when you doubt yourself, someone who feels safer when you turn to them confused than when you rise confident, someone who fears your independence because it means losing their emotional role in your life, and God's symbolic voice fills the chamber like a warm rising tide. This is not a threat, my child, this is a pattern, and you realize the truth your mother has been trying to show you. This person never intended to harm you, but they did subconsciously want to keep you emotionally accessible, uncertain enough to need them, gentle enough to bend, silent enough to trust their version of the story, and the chamber brightens with a soft white fire as heaven reveals the final layer. Their intentions were not malicious, they were misplaced, tangled, unbalanced, born from insecurity, not cruelty, and your mother stands before you with tears of relief, whispering, "Now you finally see them without the disguise," and as the chamber collapses into streams of pale gold light, one final truth echoes through the symbolic heavens. You were never protected from this person because they were dangerous, you were protected because their influence was quietly shaping you in ways that dimmed your own divine clarity, and now that the mask has fallen, you rise freer, stronger, and more aware than you have ever been in your life. My beloved child, as the unmasking chamber dissolves into spirals of silver gold dust that drift upward like stardust seeking its home, the heavens tilt into a vast, horizonless expanse where the air hums with the energy of infinite potential, and a colossal doorway made of shifting iridescent light rises in front of you, opening into the corridor of futures. A realm so expansive that even eternity looks narrow beside it, and when you step inside, the floor beneath you transforms into a treadmill of luminous glass reflecting the different versions of who you can become, each future glowing with a distinct frequency, and your mother walks beside you, her presence now calmer, lighter, as though a lifetime of worry has finally left her spirit because you can now see truth without pain, clarity without fear, and strength without losing softness, and Archangel Michael follows at a distance, not guarding you but honoring you, for no angel can interfere in the place where a soul chooses who they will be next, and as you walk deeper, the corridor responds to your internal world, expanding the moment you breathe, opening more paths the moment you accept yourself, and narrowing the moment you remember the weight others placed upon you, showing you visually how your future shifts depending on your alignment, and suddenly the corridor reveals the first future. A version of your life where you keep carrying the emotional weight of others, and this future looks dim, not dark. Just muted. Rooms feel heavier, interactions feel draining, choices feel confusing, and your footsteps echo with hesitation, and your mother gently whispers, "This is the life you lived before clarity," and the corridor dissolves that future like smoke dispersing into sunlight, then reveals the second future, one where you try to ignore your intuition again, forcing yourself to trust someone who feels slightly off. And in this future your spirit still grows but slowly, unevenly, with more pauses than progress, more doubt than certainty, and God's symbolic voice whispers, "This is the life where you doubt your light," and that path too dissolves. Then the corridor reveals the third future, the first true future, the one your mother has been guiding you toward, a life where you accept what heaven showed you, where you stop absorbing energy that isn't yours, where you let distance form without explanation, where you protect your peace without guilt, where you stop overgiving to prove loyalty, and this future begins to glow so brightly that the entire corridor warms, and the scenes unfold. Your mornings feel lighter, your decisions feel clearer, your conversations become effortless, the people around you shift into those who respect your boundaries, your relationships soften into balance, and your emotional world stops being a battlefield and becomes a sanctuary. And your mother places her hand over your heart in the vision, whispering, "This is the future where you live." Without bending, an Archangel Michael raises his wings, sending a wave of silver fire across the corridor, revealing the fourth and final future, the highest timeline you can step into now that clarity has replaced confusion, and this future does not show wealth or danger or predictions. It shows you, seated at the center of your emotional universe, grounded, calm, unshakable, surrounded by people who understand your worth without needing explanations, people who respect your boundaries. Naturally, people who approach you with sincerity instead of calculation, and this timeline glows gold white, brighter than any realm you've entered, because it represents a life where your inner world becomes your compass, where your decisions are rooted in peace rather than fear, where your direction is shaped by truth rather than people-pleasing, and heaven shows how even your voice changes, not louder, not sharper, just more centered, more clear, more certain, and your presence shifts entire rooms without effort, because you no longer shrink to fit, and God's voice fills the corridor like a gentle sunrise saying, "This is the life where you walk as the person I always created you to be," and suddenly the entire corridor of futures narrows to a single point of brilliant light that pulls toward your chest like a breath returning home, merging with your spirit so deeply that the entire realm shakes with release, and your mother steps back, tears of joy in her eyes, saying, "My child, this was never about warning you. It was about releasing you," and as the corridor collapses into a column of pure white radiance that sinks softly into your heart, the heavens whisper their final truth of this realm. The moment you accept the truth of others' intentions, your future becomes yours again, and no energy, no opinion, no shadow, no confusion can shape you ever again. My beloved child, as the corridor of futures collapses into a magnificent spiral of blinding white gold radiance that sweeps upward like a divine tidal wave, you feel the entire symbolic universe lift beneath your feet, raising you into an elevated plane where everything becomes weightless. Your past, your worries, your doubts, your emotional habits, And the realm opens into a balcony suspended high above the architecture of your entire life, a balcony carved not from stone or light but from your own becoming, and when you step onto it, the sky spreads open in a breathtaking sweep of shimmering galaxies, each star beating like a heart, each constellation shifting into scenes from chapters you have yet to live, and your mother's spirit appears beside you, no longer heavy with warnings or guidance but glowing with the gentle pride of someone who has watched their child outgrow every layer of pain, confusion, and emotional imbalance. And Archangel Michael kneels, not in worship, but in acknowledgement, because the soul that stands on this balcony is not the soul that entered the first realm. This soul is centered, awakened, sovereign, steady, and the heavens recognize your transformation as the balcony begins to tilt forward, revealing an entire horizon of symbolic futures where your life unfolds with increasing clarity, and the first image you see is not a person, not a place, not an event, but yourself, walking with a kind of quiet confidence you once believed belonged only to others, moving through your days without second-guessing your instincts, entering conversations without carrying emotional weight that isn't yours, choosing connections that nourish instead of drain, protecting your inner world not out of fear but out of reverence, and the balcony expands as this future self steps into her world, revealing how people respond differently when you stop shrinking, how their tones soften, how their respect grows, how their intentions become clearer because your boundaries shine like clean glass, impossible to confuse or manipulate, and the sky brightens as another symbolic scene rises into view, you waking with a calmness that doesn't need permission, making decisions without bargaining with guilt, walking away from old cycles without rehearsing explanations, allowing distance to form where energy feels heavy, and drawing closer to people whose sincerity finally matches your own. And God's symbolic voice rolls across the balcony like a warm cosmic wind whispering, "This is the life alignment brings," and suddenly the balcony rotates, revealing a second horizon, a timeline where your creativity returns, where opportunities flow naturally, not forced, not chased, but drawn to the strength of your new center, and you see yourself stepping into roles, conversations, environments, and relationships that feel like home, not because they are perfect but because you have become impossible to unround, and your mother places her hand over your heart in the vision, her eyes shimmering with relief as she whispers, "You no longer lose yourself in order to keep others," and the heavens widen again, showing moments where your intuition guides you effortlessly, moments where you decline invitations instinctively, not knowing why but feeling the rightness of it, moments where you speak a truth gently and watch an entire atmosphere shift, moments where you say less but mean more, moments where you sense the emotional weather of a room before anyone speaks, not to protect yourself, but to maintain your sovereignty, and Archangel Michael rises behind you, his wings spreading into an arc of silver fire that illuminates the final horizon, the highest version of your life, the version where your inner world is no longer shaped by the intentions of others but by the clarity you carry from within, and in this horizon you see yourself standing taller, softer, wiser, calmer, moving through life with the steady glow of someone who knows exactly who she is and no longer needs anyone to validate it, and heaven whispers the deepest truth of this realm. The moment you saw their real intention, you reclaimed your future, and the sky bursts into a downpour of golden sparks that fall around you like rain made of purpose, anchoring every insight, every revelation, every awakening into your soul. My beloved child, as the balcony over your next life chapter dissolves into a slow, shimmering waterfall of cosmic light that drifts upward instead of downward, the symbolic heavens rearrange themselves like constellations searching for their final position, and suddenly the universe opens into a dark, endless ocean of stillness where no waves move, no winds blow, no stars shimmer. Only a vast silence filled with the echo of your own existence, and from the center of this ocean a massive structure begins to rise, not built of stone or flame or crystal, but of pure, concentrated purpose, forming into a colossal lighthouse whose beam is not a beam of warning but a beam of recognition, and as the lighthouse rises higher and higher, its pillar made of memories and lessons and awakenings, your mother's spirit appears beside it in a soft glow, her eyes filled not with concern now but with awe, as if she is seeing the truest version of you for the first time. And Archangel Michael stands at the base of the lighthouse with both wings folded and his sword resting against the ground, symbolizing that no protection is needed in this realm, for this is the one place where your soul stands unchallenged and unshaken. And as you step toward the lighthouse, the ocean beneath your feet solidifies into a path of white silver light that stretches toward the entrance, and every step you take causes waves of old identities to melt away, waves of past fears to evaporate, waves of inherited stories to dissolve, until you reach the door of the lighthouse where God's symbolic voice whispers, "This is where the truth beneath all truths lives," and when you step inside, the entire interior transforms into a spiraling tower of floating windows, each window showing a moment in your life where you quietly carried light without knowing it, moments where you comforted someone without expecting anything back, moments where you held space for people who couldn't hold space for themselves, moments where your presence calmed stormy hearts, moments where your words stitched wounds you didn't cause, moments where you absorbed emotions to protect others, moments where you cried not because you were weak but because you felt deeply, and heaven reveals that all these moments were not accidents, they were the earliest signs of your purpose. And the lighthouse begins to glow brighter as your mother's spirit guides you higher up the spiral stairs, each step showing symbolic scenes of people's lives you impacted without realizing it, the friend who healed because you listened, the relative who stayed strong because you didn't give up, the stranger who felt seen because you smiled, the soul who didn't fall apart because your presence gave them one extra breath of strength. And Michael gently says, "Your light worked even when you didn't know you were shining," and as you reach the highest point of the lighthouse, the walls vanish, revealing the entire symbolic universe spread out beneath you like an infinite tapestry of nights and days, and in the center of this open space floats a single glowing sphere, your soul's purpose, and when you touch it, a surge of warmth spreads through your chest showing the deepest truth heaven has been waiting to tell you. You were not born to fix or carry or rescue, you were born to illuminate, to awaken, to reveal clarity simply by existing. And the lives around you changed not because you tried but because your essence carries a frequency that shifts atmospheres, and God's symbolic voice rises through the vast cosmic air, saying, "This child came to bring understanding where there was confusion, peace where there was tension, light where there was heaviness," and suddenly the lighthouse bursts open at the top, releasing a beam of gold-and-silver radiance that shoots upward through the heavens, signaling that your soul has finally come into alignment with its purpose, and the ocean below begins to ripple for the first time, sending waves of soft light outward across the entire symbolic universe, representing how your future relationships, conversations, choices, and presence will now carry the clarity you have earned. And your mother steps forward with tears of relief, whispering, "My child, you were never meant to disappear into other people, you were meant to shine over them," and the lighthouse slowly sinks its light into your chest, merging with your spirit, leaving one eternal truth echoing across The heavens. Your purpose is not what you do, your purpose is the clarity and truth your presence brings into every space you enter, and from this moment forward, your life will unfold from alignment, not fear, from inner light, not outer noise, from sovereignty, not survival, because the lighthouse is no longer outside you, it is you. My beloved child, as the lighthouse of your soul's purpose melts into a swirling column of molten gold that slowly rises through the December heavens, the entire symbolic universe begins to reconfigure itself with a slow, thunderless gravity, and your spirit is lifted upward on a current of warm light into a realm that feels older than memory and younger than creation. A room formed not from walls or ceilings but from the radiant impressions of every person whose heart has brushed against yours. And as you enter, the air thickens with a quiet reverence because this is the room where heaven shows who your light heals, and in this room, your mother's spirit does not guide you, she simply watches, her eyes shimmering with the same mixture of awe and recognition a parent feels when they see their child step into the fullness of who they've always been, and Archangel Michael lowers his wings, signaling that even angels bow in this realm. For healing is a language written not in miracles but in the invisible way your soul has touched others, and the room begins to glow softly as thousands of orbs of light rise from the floor, each orb containing a symbolic vision of someone whose life shifted because of your presence, and as you walk forward, these orbs float toward you one at a time, showing scenes you never witnessed, moments where your kindness stopped someone from giving up on themselves, moments where your listening prevented someone's heart from collapsing inward, moments where your forgiveness softened someone's shame, moments where your silence protected someone's dignity, moments where your patience gave someone time to breathe when they were drowning, moments where your resilience gave someone hope that they could survive their own storm, and the room reveals even more intimate scenes, times when your softness broke generational harshness, times when your clarity ended cycles of misunderstanding, times when your intuition sensed someone's pain before they spoke. Times when you showed strength without needing credit, times when you absorbed tension so the atmosphere wouldn't break, times when you stayed steady even when your own heart was trembling, and God's symbolic voice fills the chamber like a quiet sunrise whispering, "My child, your light has healed more than you know," and suddenly the orbs multiply, showing strangers whose paths crossed yours for seconds but who carried your energy for days. Cashiers who felt lighter because you looked them in the eyes, neighbors who felt comforted because your presence softened the space, children who felt safe because your frequency resembled home, elders who felt respected because you listened without rushing, and the room grows brighter as more orbs rise, each one a soul you calmed without knowing, a life you steadied without effort, a heart you helped without recognition. And your mother steps forward, tears of soft pride falling from her eyes as she whispers, "This is why your spirit has always felt heavy, you were carrying light meant for many," and Michael touches the center of the room with his blade, causing the orbs to rearrange themselves into a vast cosmic map of interwoven threads, all leading back to your heart, and the truth becomes visible. You were not only healing others, you were altering the emotional DNA of everyone who crossed your path, raising the vibration of spaces you entered, dissolving conflict without speaking, redirecting timelines without realizing it, and heaven shows how your existence, your simple presence, shifted people's choices, softened their anger, interrupted their pain, inspired their courage, expanded their understanding, and in some cases, prevented their despair, and the room reveals the deepest truth of all. Your purpose was never to be perfect, or loud, or flawless. Your purpose was to awaken something ancient in others simply by being yourself. And as the room begins to dissolve into misty gold, God's symbolic voice echoes with overwhelming gentleness, saying, "The world changes not because of what you do, but because of the peace you carry," and the entire chamber folds into a beam of radiant white light that enters your chest, sealing every life you've touched into your inner knowing, leaving one eternal truth engraved across the heavens. Your light has healed more hearts than your mind will ever understand, and now that you see this truth, your next chapter can begin with the strength of a soul who finally knows the magnitude of their own presence. My beloved child, as the room where your light heals others dissolves into drifting ribbons of pale gold that rise like warm breath into the endless symbolic heavens, the universe around you begins to tilt and stretch as though all creation is rearranging itself to make space for what comes next, and suddenly the floor beneath your feet gives way, not downward into shadow, but upward into a slow, spiraling ascent of molten silver light that carries you higher than any realm before, until the air becomes warm and fragrant with a scent that feels like memory and prophecy folded into one, and as your spirit stabilizes, you find yourself standing at the entrance of a vast celestial garden, its gates made of intertwining vines woven from your own healed timelines, and when the gates open, the garden of renewed destiny reveals itself in full, a limitless landscape of living light where every tree, every leaf, every petal, every drop of dew glows with the potential your soul could not access. While it was entangled in the weight of other people's intentions, and your mother's spirit walks beside you, not guiding, not warning, but smiling with a softness that carries decades of release, as if she has finally seen her child step into the world she prayed you would one day reach, and Archangel Michael appears ahead of you, planting his sword into the ground not as a sign of battle but as a marker, a declaration that nothing from your past has permission to follow you into this realm, and as you step deeper into the garden, the air begins to shimmer with scenes forming around you like blooming constellations suspended within flowers, showing symbolic visions of your life regenerating in real time, your confidence growing without needing validation, your mind clearing like a sky after rain, your emotions settling into balance like the sea at dawn, your decisions arising not from fear but from alignment. And the garden reveals paths that branch outward into versions of your future, where relationships grow healthier because you no longer shrink to keep atmospheres calm, where friendships become deeper because you no longer carry conversations on your back, where connections become more authentic because you no longer attract people who thrive on your uncertainty, and God's symbolic voice rises in the gentle wind whispering, "This is the life that was waiting beneath your survival," and the flowers nearest you burst into enormous blossoms shaped like memories you have outgrown, memories that once felt heavy but now feel distant, softened, rewritten by your clarity, and the petals fall around your feet like blessings returning home, showing how even your regrets have been composted into wisdom, and the trees bend slightly toward you, their branches heavy with shimmering fruits that represent opportunities you are finally able to see because confusion no longer blinds your intuition. And as you walk further, the garden reveals a pond so clear it reflects not your face but the frequency of your soul, steady, luminous, sovereign, unshaken, and when you kneel beside it, the reflection shows your future self smiling back at you with a calm you once believed was impossible, and your mother kneels beside you in the vision, whispering, "This is who you become when nothing and no one pulls you backward," and the pond begins to ripple as scenes of your life unfolding with ease emerge on its surface. Conversations where your voice flows without hesitation. Decisions that feel like instinct instead of calculations, days that begin with peace instead of emotional bracing, nights that end with gratitude instead of exhaustion, and Archangel Michael touches the water with his wings, causing the ripples to expand into enormous symbolic waves that crash outward across the entire garden, regenerating every future path your soul once feared to walk. And God's symbolic voice fills the air again, saying, "Your destiny was never lost, it was only waiting for you to rise high enough to receive it," and the entire garden erupts into a radiant bloom of golden light, each flower releasing a small orb that rises into the sky, forming a constellation shaped like your awakening, and as the constellation brightens, its light pours downward onto your chest, merging with your spirit, sealing your next chapter into your being, until the garden itself folds into a beam of warm brilliance that enters your heart one final time, leaving a single eternal truth resonating across the heavens. Once your soul sees its worth, destiny begins to grow again. My beloved child, as the garden of renewed destiny folds itself into a spiraling column of luminous petals that rise into the upper heavens like a blooming galaxy turning itself inside out, the entire symbolic universe begins to hum with a low, vibrating frequency that pulses through time itself. And suddenly the floor beneath you dissolves into a seamless wave of white gold radiance that lifts you higher than any realm you have ever reached, carrying you through the ceiling of destiny into a region where existence feels weightless, silent, infinite, and when your feet touch the ground again, you find yourself inside a massive circular chamber made of translucent crystal, each wall shimmering with soft shifting hues like a living aurora, and this chamber feels different from every realm before, not warm like the garden, not reflective like the mirror, not sacred like the lighthouse, but eternal, ancient, foundational. And your mother's spirit appears at your side, not in her usual emotional glow but in a deeply calm form, her aura steady, dignified, knowing, as though she has waited lifetimes to walk with you into this room. And Archangel Michael stands at the entrance, his wings folded tightly, his head bowed, not in sorrow or fear but in deep respect for what this chamber reveals, because this is the chamber of unshakable identity, the place where your soul's original blueprint rests untouched by the world. And as you step forward, the crystal walls begin to ripple and reveal visions not of your past, not of your pain, not of your relationships, but of the essence beneath all of it, showing a symbolic silhouette of you that is neither male nor female, neither child nor adult, neither fragile nor strong. It is simply your eternal self, the version of you that existed before wounds, before expectations, before childhood shaped your instincts, before society shaped your personality, before love shaped your patterns, and when the silhouette turns toward you, the air thickens with an indescribable recognition, as if every version of you across every timeline is converging into this moment, and heaven reveals the truth. You are not defined by the roles you've played, not defined by the emotions you've carried, not defined by the wounds you've healed, not defined by the misunderstandings you endured, not defined by the relationships that shaped you. You are defined by something deeper, an inner frequency, a core vibration, a soul song that has remained the same since the moment your spirit was formed in the heart of creation, and the chamber begins to echo with visions of moments where you accidentally glimpsed this identity in your human life, moments where you felt strangely calm in chaos, moments where your instincts protected you before logic did, moments where you sensed someone's intention before they spoke, moments where you felt a connection with someone you just met, moments where your heart recognized truth instantly, moments where you knew you had to walk away without explanation, moments where you offered compassion without reason, moments where you trusted your path even when you couldn't describe it, and God's symbolic voice fills the chamber like a slow sunrise whispering, "This is who you are when the world is silent, and the crystal walls ignite with a radiant glow that begins to project symbolic layers of your identity, your intuition, your empathy, your resilience, your clarity, your emotional intelligence, your ability to absorb atmosphere, your ability to soothe tension, your deep introspective mind, your protective energy, your spiritual sensitivity, your ancient soul awareness, and each of these layers begins to fuse into the silhouette until it becomes a fully illuminated figure of light, a being who looks like you but more grounded, more certain, more unbothered by noise, more aligned with truth. And your mother reaches out, touching the figure's hand, whispering, "My child, this is you." Without fear, and when you touch the figure's other hand, a surge of warm energy floods your chest, dissolving every external label you ever carried, labels of being too sensitive, too emotional, too caring, too quiet, too observant, too forgiving. And the chamber shows how these were never flaws but indicators of depth, indicators of awareness, indicators of ancient spiritual wiring that allowed you to navigate emotional landscapes others couldn't understand. And Archangel Michael steps forward, placing his sword into the ground as the entire chamber shakes with a deep cosmic rumble, and God's voice becomes louder, stronger, echoing through the chamber. Identity is not built, it is remembered, and the figure of light steps forward, merging with your chest in a blinding pulse that knocks all sound out of existence, and for a moment there is nothing, no memory, no thought, no story. Only the raw essence of your being vibrating like a star newly ignited, and as the chamber slowly reforms, now glowing with your light instead of its own, one eternal truth echoes across all of heaven: no relationship, no misunderstanding, no jealousy, no past, no fear, no shadow, no cycle has the power to distort who you truly are, because your identity was forged in eternity, not in the opinions of people. My beloved child, as the chamber of unshakable identity melts away like a shell that has completed its purpose, the air around you thickens with a golden gravity that pulls the entire symbolic heavens inward toward a single point, and suddenly your spirit is lifted into a corridor of swirling white gold spirals that glow brighter with every heartbeat, until you are deposited into a colossal cosmic hall with no walls, no ceiling, no floor, only millions of floating geometric constellations, each one turning slowly like living diagrams of energy, and in the center of this infinite expanse stands a circular platform made of light so pure it casts no shadow, and when you step onto it, the entire hall awakens with a low, harmonious vibration as thousands of luminous symbols rise into the air, arranging themselves into a massive celestial blueprint, your future self as heaven sees you. Not as a prediction but as a symbolic map of your potential, your strength, your evolution, and your unchosen greatness, and the blueprint begins to rotate, showing different layers of who you are becoming, a version of you with clearer boundaries, a version of you with undisturbed intuition, a version of you who makes decisions without shaking, a version of you who speaks from truth instead of fear, a version of you who is no longer shaped by old wounds, a version of you who holds your own frequency instead of absorbing everyone else's, and God's symbolic voice emerges like a soft thunder whispering, "This is the child reborn through clarity," and the blueprint expands further, revealing how your emotional patterns will refine, less overthinking, more knowing, less spiraling, more grounding, less reactivity, more awareness, less self-blame, more self-recognition, less carrying others' storms, more honoring your peace, and the symbols shift again, revealing your future relationships, not as specific people but as frequencies, connections that nourish instead of drain. Conversations that build instead of bruise, bonds that grow instead of circle, and the blueprint shows how your presence becomes magnetically aligned, drawing in people who match your healed self instead of your wounded self. And Archangel Michael appears at the edge of the platform with his sword of light planted firmly into the ground, not in warning but in confirmation, as if he is declaring, "This path is protected." And your mother's spirit steps forward, her hand placed over her heart. With pride so deep it softens the entire hall, whispering, "This is the future I prayed your soul would reach," and the blueprint begins to rotate faster, showing how your life expands as you step into this new self. Opportunities that once hid from you now reveal themselves, paths that were blocked now open, conversations flow with clarity, decisions align without inner conflict, your days carry ease, your nights carry peace, and the hall reveals symbolic versions of your future self at different stages. One standing tall through challenges without losing balance, one walking into new chapters without hesitation, one receiving what is meant without shrinking, one releasing what is not without guilt. And God's symbolic voice echoes again, "This evolution is not a reward, it is your birthright." And suddenly the entire celestial blueprint collapses into a concentrated orb of radiant white light that floats directly in front of your chest before merging into your heart with a warm shockwave that travels through your entire being, rewriting your posture, your calm, your intuition, your self-trust, your inner language, until the hall dissolves into a spiraling tunnel of golden dust that pours into your spirit, leaving a single eternal truth engraved across the heavens. Your future is not built by force or fear, it is unlocked the moment you become the one who is worthy of receiving it. And today, symbolically, you stepped into that self.